I maintained perfect composure as I pushed my mashed potatoes around my plate, letting my parents' words wash over me during our annual Christmas dinner. The pristine dining room of their suburban home was decorated with expensive holiday cheer, crystal glasses catching the chandelier's light. Still playing nurse at that downtown hospital. Dad sneered again when I didn't respond, adjusting his designer glasses. What a waste of your potential. You could have joined our private practice years ago. Mom dabbed her lips with a monogrammed napkin. Sweetheart, we just want what's best for you. Real doctors run departments, make real money. They don't work night shifts with the common folk. My brother James nodded in agreement, his new Rolex flashing. Seriously, sis, you're embarrassing the family name. The Thompsons have been respected surgeons for 3 generations. I took another small bite of turkey, maintaining my calm expression. They had no idea I'd spent the morning performing a groundbreaking neurosurgery procedure, one that would likely be published in several major medical journals. But I'd learned long ago that trying to defend myself only encouraged their attacks.
At least tell me you're finally applying to residency programs.
Dad pressed, swirling his expensive wine. You can't keep playing around in the ER forever. I have connections at several top hospitals. One call from me, thank you, but I'm happy where I am, I said quietly, the same response I'd given for the past 5 years. They assumed I was still the same uncertain medical student who'd once sought their approval. If they'd bothered to check, they'd have noticed I hadn't worked a regular nursing shift in years. Happy? Mom scoffed. Working holidays, dealing with drunks and addicts. That's not happiness, that's settling. A real doctor builds a respected private practice. Like your father and I have done, Dad added proudly. 30 years of serving Silicon Valley's elite. That's real medicine, not whatever you're doing downtown. I nodded politely and reached for my water glass. Let them think what they wanted. My patients came from all walks of life, and I was proud of the level of care my emergency department provided. Even if my family couldn't see it. Did you hear the hospital board is reviewing all department procedures next month? James said suddenly. Dad's been preparing his presentation for weeks. They're really cracking down on protocol compliance. The board better approve my recommendations, Dad declared confidently. I've run my department exactly as I see fit for 20 years. They know better than to question my methods. I kept my expression neutral, but internally I noted his arrogance. As the newly appointed chief of surgery, I'd already flagged several concerning patterns in his department's data. The board review was actually scheduled for tomorrow morning. Speaking of the hospital, Mom chimed in. I heard they're looking for a new chief of surgery. Now that would be a real career move for you, if you just apply yourself properly. Of course you'd need actual surgical experience first. The familiar criticism continued as we moved on to dessert. I declined coffee, checking my watch. I should head out soon. Early morning tomorrow. Another night shift, Dad asked dismissively. I suppose someone has to do it, though it's a shame it has to be my daughter. That's when his phone rang.
He glanced at the screen, frowning slightly as he answered.
Dr. Thompson speaking. I could hear the clear voice of Carol, the hospital board secretary, through the speaker. Dr. Thompson, I'm calling to remind you that all surgical procedures must be approved by your department head starting tomorrow morning. The new chief of surgery wants to review the complete schedule before the board meeting. Dad's face tightened.
Excuse me?
I don't need anyone's approval for my surgeries. I've run this department for 20 years. I understand, sir, but this comes directly from Dr. Sarah Thompson, the new chief of surgery. She'll need to sign off on all procedures before they can proceed. The silence that fell over the table was absolute. 5 pairs of eyes slowly turned to stare at me as I calmly took another bite of pumpkin pie. There must be some mistake, Dad sputtered. My daughter Sarah, she's just a nurse. No mistake, Dr. Thompson, Carol replied cheerfully. Dr. Sarah Thompson was appointed chief of surgery last month. She'll be leading tomorrow's board review of all departmental protocols and procedures. Her office has already flagged several concerns about your department's compliance records. Dad's face had gone pale. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. James's mouth hung open in shock. I dabbed my lips with my napkin and stood up. I should really get going. Big day tomorrow. Dad, I'll see you at the board meeting at 9 a.m. sharp. Bring your complete surgical logs for the past 6 months. We have a lot to discuss. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital at my usual 6 a.m., well before the board meeting. My corner office on the executive floor still felt new, though I'd been chief of surgery for a month. The wall of windows overlooked the city skyline, now brightening with dawn. My assistant Carol brought in my morning coffee. Dr. Thompson, your father's been calling since 5 a.m. He's quite insistent about meeting before the board review. I'm sure he is, I said calmly, reviewing his department's files. Please hold all his calls. He can present his explanations to the full board like everyone else. The data painted a concerning picture: unnecessary procedures, excessive billing, selective patient acceptance based on insurance coverage. All perfectly legal perhaps, but far below the standard of care I was establishing. At 8:45, I heard raised voices in the outer office. Right on schedule, I demand to see her immediately. My father's familiar commanding tone. This is ridiculous. I'm her father. I'm sorry, Dr. Thompson, but the chief of surgery is preparing for the board meeting. Carol replied professionally. You'll need to wait. I straightened my suit and gathered my files. When I stepped into the outer office, Dad fell silent mid-protest. He looked smaller somehow in the harsh fluorescent lighting, his usual confidence fractured. Good morning, Dr. Thompson, I said formally. The boardroom is this way. Sarah, we need to talk about this, he hissed, hurrying to keep up with my stride. Whatever game you're playing, this isn't a game. I cut him off calmly. This is about patient care standards and departmental protocols, something you'll be very familiar with after 20 years as department head. We entered the boardroom, where the hospital's senior leadership was already assembled. Many nodded respectfully to me. Dad's face reddened as he realized everyone knew about my position except him. Please be seated, I said, taking my place at the head of the table. We'll begin with surgical department reviews. Dr. Thompson, you're first. Please present your department's mortality rates, procedure justifications, and patient acceptance criteria for the past 6 months. For the next hour, I led a methodical examination of his department's practices. Every questioned procedure, every rejected patient, every inflated bill was laid bare under the board's scrutiny. Dad's attempts to defend his professional judgment grew increasingly feeble. This pattern of selective patient care based on financial status ends immediately, I concluded, as does the practice of scheduling unnecessary procedures to maximize insurance billing. You have 1 month to implement the new protocols, or the board will need to consider new department leadership. You can't do this, Dad protested weakly. I built this department. I can and I will, I replied evenly. This hospital serves everyone, not just those who can afford boutique care. That's what real medicine looks like, Dad. The board members nodded in agreement. They'd seen the improvements I'd already implemented in other departments. If there are no other questions, you're dismissed, Dr. Thompson. Please have your corrective action plan on my desk by Friday. Dad stood slowly, looking lost without his usual arrogance. Sarah, when did you? How long have you? 5 years as head of emergency medicine. 3 years on the hospital board, 1 month as chief of surgery. I gathered my files. You never asked. You were too busy telling me what a real doctor looks like. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Carol will show you out, I said, turning to my notes for the next review. Oh, and Dad, Mom might want to prepare for her department's review next week. I've noticed some concerning patterns there as well. As he left in stunned silence, I allowed myself a small smile. Sometimes the best revenge was simply doing your job exceptionally well. The rest of the board straightened in their seats as I looked up. Now shall we continue with the next department? The fallout was both swift and far-reaching. By evening my phone had 30 missed calls from various family members. Mom's hysterical voicemails ranged from demands for explanations to thinly veiled threats about destroying the family legacy. James, ever the opportunist, left carefully worded messages trying to position himself as an ally. I ignored them all and focused on my evening rounds. Dr. Thompson, a young resident approached me in the surgical wing. Your mother is waiting in your office. She says it's urgent. Everything's urgent to her, I replied calmly, finishing my patient notes. Please inform her that all department reviews are conducted through official channels only. The resident hesitated. She's quite insistent. Says something about family dinner tonight. I checked my watch. 7 p.m. Of course. Thursday night family dinner, a Thompson tradition where they gathered to discuss their medical empire and pat themselves on the back. I hadn't attended in years, but they still expected me to show up and play the role of the disappointing daughter. When I reached my office, Mom was pacing, her designer heels clicking against the floor. Her perfectly styled hair was slightly disheveled, a sure sign of distress. Sarah Elizabeth Thompson, she began in her best commanding tone. What do you think you're doing? I sat down at my desk, gesturing for her to take a seat. She remained standing. Currently, my job, which includes ensuring all departments maintain proper medical standards and ethical practices. This is about more than just protocols, she exploded. This is about family. Your father built this surgical department from nothing. 20 years of reputation, connections, respect, and you're threatening to dismantle it all. I met her gaze steadily. No, Mom, I'm threatening to enforce proper medical standards. If Dad's reputation depends on selective patient care and unnecessary procedures, perhaps it deserves to be dismantled. You ungrateful, she caught herself, switching tactics. Sweetheart, we only wanted what was best for you. We pushed you because we saw your potential. No, I corrected her quietly. You pushed me because you wanted me to be a copy of you and Dad. To join your exclusive private practice, treat only wealthy patients, and perpetuate the Thompson medical dynasty. But that was never my path. And this is, she gestured around the office dismissively, playing administrative power games. This is providing quality medical care to everyone who needs it, regardless of their social status or bank account. This is real medicine, Mom. The kind you and Dad forgot about somewhere between your country club memberships and luxury vacation homes. She flinched. The board reviews my department next week. Yes, and will you find similar concern with my practices? I opened a file on my desk. Your patient rejection rate for those with basic insurance is 78%. Your elective procedure rate for wealthy patients is 3 times the hospital average. And your billing practices. I closed the file. Well, we'll discuss those at the review. Mom sank into the chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. You'll destroy everything we built. No, Mom, I'm rebuilding it into something better, something that actually helps people instead of just profiting from them. My office phone buzzed. Dr. Thompson, your 7:30 emergency consultation is ready. Thank you, Carol. I stood up. You should head to family dinner, Mom. I'm sure they're waiting. I have patients who need me. Sarah, she tried one last time. We're your family. I paused at the door. Yes, you are. And as your daughter, I tried for years to make you proud. But as chief of surgery, my responsibility is to this hospital and its patients. It's time you and Dad remembered yours. I left her sitting there, her perfectly manicured hands twisted in her lap. Down in the ER, a teenage car crash victim needed emergency surgery. His family couldn't afford premium insurance, which meant Dad's department would have rejected him. But things were different now. I scrubbed in, feeling the familiar calm focus settle over me. Let them have their family dinner, their bitter discussions about my betrayal, their plans to fight back. Tomorrow would bring more department reviews, more resistance, more family drama. But tonight I had a life to save. And that was worth more than all their approval ever was. Scalpel, I said clearly, and began my work.